Hey, what's going on? It's Travis, and if you're watching this video, it means you recently booked an appointment with us to do real estate video. What you're gonna find right away with real estate video is if you haven't done this before, there's a lot of similarities to photography, but there's also a lot of differences. And I wanna break down some of those differences and also some of the other things you can do to prepare for this shoot so we can make sure it's as effective as possible. First things first, we actually normally want fans on. So usually when you talk to a photographer, they're gonna ask you to turn all the fans off because they don't want the motion blur in their photos. Well, for us, for video, since we're creating something that is essentially a bunch of frames of photography, we can see the motion of the fan, and the more motion in a real estate video, the more interesting it's gonna be. We don't wanna have just a bunch of static shots that essentially just look like a slideshow of what the photographer already did. We want to add as much motion as we can. So not only do you want to turn your fans on, but if there's anything else in the house that could add more motion and mobility to the shoot, we want to incorporate that. So this might be turning the water faucet on to see the water running, or the jets in the hot tub, whatever it might be. As well as if you have any extra assets we can add to this. So it might be driving a car up to the front and showing the cool garage and how it opens, or whatever it might be. Anything you can think of that we can add more motion to the video is gonna go a long ways. Next up, I'm gonna ask that you make sure all clutter is eliminated before we get there. What we don't wanna do is have the shoot be slowed down because we're waiting on items to be moved, or we're helping you pick up furniture, or whatever it might be. Don't get me wrong, we wanna make sure everything looks the best it can, and we're willing to help out with that. But really, at the end of the day, all this stuff should be done before we arrive. If you don't have a stager yet, I highly recommend that you get one. They're gonna go a long ways with making sure things are in the right places, and it's gonna look shoot ready when we get there. This also will save a bunch of time for you, for the client, and for myself. I always kind of joke around that if I finish a shoot very quickly, it doesn't mean that I'm doing a poor job. It means that you guys did a great job getting the house ready, because I already know what I want to shoot when I walk into a home, and there might be some adjusting here and there, but for the most part, I have a game plan in place, and if everything is ready for me, I can just act upon that. Also, one thing you have to keep in mind, the difference between photography and video. Many times I've seen real estate agents try to hide things or take things from room to room as we're shooting the photography. That doesn't work as well for video because we sometimes want to show the flow of the house. So, for example, if you hid some stuff in the living room and the living room is connected to the kitchen, I might want to show how the living room and kitchen are connected. So if you hid it in the living room, I'm going to eventually see it when I start walking through the kitchen to the living room. So we need to make sure everything is cleared out. Garages are great for that, or if needed, get some storage outside that we can put everything in. Next, you want to plan for sound. With photography, there of course is no audio, it's just an image. But for video, sometimes we actually want to utilize some of that natural sound that comes from the house. So this might be the water running, it might be the sound of nature outside, birds chirping. Now, we can always artificially add these things in later, but if we can get that natural sound while we're on site, it's gonna save us time in editing, which of course is gonna benefit you because it means you can have the video faster and you can start listing this property sooner. Now, I love meeting the homeowner, but sometimes it can just get in the way, especially if they have pets. So I highly recommend that you ask the homeowner to leave, and if they have any pets, to go ahead and take them on a walk if possible. Now, I know in the winter months in certain areas this can't happen, but if at all possible, if they could at least have their pets in a room that's separate of us so they won't be interfering, and the homeowner can always just go head over to the mall or a store or get some coffee while they're waiting for us to do our job. Next, I recommend that you check lighting. Now, most of the time we want to have all the lights on, we want to have all the blinds open, but there are some exceptions. For example, if we are in a busy, congested area, we might actually want to keep the blinds closed or only crack the blinds open slightly because we don't want to show how close we are to the neighbors. Now, obviously, you kind of know what you're getting into if you're buying a house like that, but sometimes it can be very intimidating looking if the only view you see is the neighbor's house. And lighting can be hit or miss as well. What we've kind of found with some LED lighting is it doesn't look the greatest, so sometimes we'll actually bring our own lighting in to try to make it look like how you think it looks. Sometimes lighting can cause harsh shadows and maybe it doesn't look as flattering on people in the scene. So we might actually turn off the lights, but to get things started, I recommend just go ahead and turning on all the lights for us. We'll do a walk around the house and then we'll decide if we need to turn any off. If you plan on speaking, make sure you prepare ahead of time. What I don't want to have happen is We do a great job filming everything, and then we end up needing like 2 hours of your time because you weren't prepared to deliver your script. I highly recommend preparing it ahead of time. Write it down, practice it a few times in the mirror before you meet with us. And then when we do the final one, you'll be ready to go, and we only need to do micro coaching with you to make sure that you nail your script perfectly. Before we get to the shoot, I would love if you could send me any key selling points of this house. We don't want to just shoot everything because some things just don't show as well for the house, or it's not a selling point. So if you have any of those selling points, feel free to send them to us ahead of time, or when we do our first walkthrough, when we first arrive, let's go over those right away because we want to make sure we're focusing on what will get people to want to buy this home. Lastly, this is something I see all the time. Unless we're planning on using the car that's in the driveway, make sure there's no cars there. Now, this can also be tricky mattering on where the homeowner lives. But if we can't hide the cars, it would be great if we could maybe put them in the garage, or if there's a tree we could park them under. And the reason for this is in the drone shots, we don't want to have the driveway cluttered up with cars. We would like to showcase the driveway, especially if it's a really nice one. We can't see that through the car, unfortunately. So let's make sure those cars are taken off the driveway before we arrive, so we don't have to worry about those being in the shot. And there you have it. There are some tips to get you prepared on this video shoot. If you have any questions before the shoot day arrives, please send me an email or give me a call and we can discuss that more. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.